Jason here with Micronova, the manufacturers of Amplipro. Today I'd like to talk to you about some of the features of your Amplipro main unit and your streamer unit. Specifically, we're going to discuss how to use these units in order to be remote controlled by other devices. For example, perhaps you have a larger home automation system based on Home Assistant, or you have a NICE or an Elan system or a Control4 system or some other larger third-party home automation system, and you'd like to integrate the Amplipro and have it be controlled directly by that system as opposed to using our user interface. In order to do that, we actually have a remote control mode, and today I'm going to show you how you'd enable that. So here on the screen, I'm showing an Amplipro streamer connected to the UI, and this process holds true for both the streamer or main unit. So here's our user interface connected to the Amplipro streamer. You can see up at the top I'm connected to amplify.local, and this is my home screen, and right now I'm playing internet radio station called Groove Salad. So the first thing we want to do is configure the unit for remote control mode. We call it LMS mode, or Lyron Music Server mode. So if we go, so I click the gear down here, settings, and then in there if we go to configuration, and over here see it says Lyron Music Server mode, go ahead and toggle that on. And what it's going to do when you toggle it on, it's going to ask you if you're sure, because what that will do is any configuration you currently have on the Amplify, any of your stream configured, your configured streams, your zone configurations, your grouping configurations, it's going to remove all that and put on the remote control configuration. So what you may want to do if you perhaps want to go back to local control through our app, save that configuration file. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes, I'm sure I want to go ahead and switch it over to LMS mode. And it has downloaded a JSON configuration file, my previous config. If I ever want to switch back to local config or local control mode, I can just go ahead and load in that configuration after I turn off LMS mode. I can load that configuration back on my system and it'll reload my previous configuration. Okay, so once I'm in LMS mode, if I go to the home screen, I'll see my 4 sources connected to 4 LMS clients. Again, I'm in remote mode now, so I no longer want to use our UI, this user interface, or the Amplify app to control the Amplify. What I'm going to use now is LMS, or Lyron Music Server. And from there, there's custom drivers that'll talk directly to LMS to control your unit. So before we install those custom drivers, the next step we have to do is configure LMS. So once we switched our unit over to LMS mode, not only did it create these 4 LMS clients and connect them to our 4 sources on our unit, it also started up an LMS server in the background. So in order to access that server, let's go ahead and navigate to Amplify Local :9000. So in another tab, I'm going to go to Amplify Local :9000. And that'll connect me to the LMS server that's running on my Amplipro box. So once I'm connected to the Logitech Media server or the Lyron Music server, I can see my 4 clients. So if I go up to the top, here's my 4 clients or my 4 players, music 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I can see what each one of those is currently playing. And again, a driver that I would install for a third party's system would actually directly control these music players. So I don't have to use this interface to interact with the Amplipro. This interface is mainly just to configure the different streams that are available on these player interfaces. So let's go ahead and walk through how we configure those different streams. So if you look over on the corner here, on the left corner, I have a few streams already configured. So specifically, I have Spotify, Pandora, I have Deezer, and I have Tidal. There's others I could configure as well. LMS server has a ton of different plugins that you can install and configure. Today we're going to walk through some of the more popular ones. Specifically, we'll walk through Spotify and Pandora and explain how you would set those up and connect your accounts to those different streams. So each one of them, so for example, if we start with Spotify, each one of them we configure the accounts over in settings. So if I click this gear in the bottom right corner, go to the settings page, it brings up the LMS settings tabs. So go ahead over to Advanced. And in Advanced, you're going to have a drop down at the top. And from the drop down, we're going to select the specific music plugin, streamer plugin that we're trying to configure. So the first one we're going to do is Spotify for Squeezebox. So if we click on that, you can see so far I've already added 2 accounts. I've added 2 Spotify accounts to the Spotify plugin. If I click the Add Account button, I can go ahead and add another account. It's pretty straightforward. The way I do it is I actually don't have to enter a username and password. It will simply show up as a speaker in the app. So once I start this up, if I go to my app, if I go to my Spotify app, and I look for this speaker, this Spotify authentication speaker, and I connect to it, it will pass the credentials from my Spotify account to the LMS server, and it will integrate the accounts together. So once I do that, I'll have an account available here on Spotify. So if I click on the Spotify icon, you can see I have both my JSON account I've created and my test account. And for each one of those accounts, if I go into them, I have access to my albums, any playlists I've created, any podcasts, etc. So that's how you configure Spotify. And the nice thing about Spotify is not only can you create multiple accounts, you can also listen to any of those accounts you've created on any of these 4 music players. And an added bonus, actually, you can use one account on multiple music players. So I could stream different songs from the same account into different zones using my Amplipro. Okay, so the next one we're going to talk about is Pandora. So here you see I've configured Pandora to work with LMS as well. And when I click on it, I can see all my Pandora stations. So the way I did that is, again, I went over to Settings. And again, under Advanced, I selected the drop-down box. And I went to Pyrera, which is the name of the plugin here for Pandora. And it's pretty straightforward. All I have to do is enter my username and my password and click Apply. And once I do that, I can go back to my main menu. I can go to my home screen, and under the Pandora app, I should be able to click it. And again, I should be able to see all my accounts. So that's a pretty basic run through of how we can use Lyron Music Server hosted natively on an Amplipro to use the Amplipro device as a plugin or another device in a larger music system. So the idea here is, for example, if my entire home was controlled by Home Assistant, I could run Amplipro in LMS mode and then have Home Assistant talk to the LMS instance running on Amplipro to automate my music listening experience. Again, you're only going to want to do this if you don't want to directly control your Amplify through the Amplify user interface or the web app. All right, that's it for today's blog post. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them in the comments down at the bottom. And thanks again from the Micronova Amplipro team. Goodbye. If you'd like to see how other streams are configured in LMS, please check out our blog over at blog.amplipro.com. Under our blog entry, you can see how other streams such as Tidal and Deezer, etc. are configured. And you can also learn more about our third-party integrations offered with links to third-party vendor websites as well. Thanks again for tuning in, and take care from the Amplipro team. Goodbye.